In today's video, we are going to show you how Henry and I took this 1980 Chevy LUV from a field where it sat for 23 years in North Texas. Well, this stuff is thick.
Oh my God.
To running and driving. It didn't take as much as I expected. We paid $600 for the truck. We probably have, I don't know, another $1,000 in it, and she's running and driving again. So, thanks. Enjoy. Henry, what do you say next?
She's ready to roll.
She's ready to roll. She wasn't ready to roll. Yep. I think I already did an intro to this. I can't remember.
You don't like that old spill down there. Don't look good.
I know. That's funny. It looks like it's leaking.
I know.
Well, we just got home with another one. This is unit asset number 30. S10 number 10. Well, it's not really an S10, but it's the OG S10. This is either an 81 or an 82 LUV. I'm guessing it's the gas-powered 1.8 cylinder because it doesn't have the diesel emblem that was common. It also doesn't have the 4x4 badges or the Mikado trim, which tells me this was a very base model pickup truck. But it does have the service bed. Literally just picked this up this morning, just got home, had to drive a couple hours for it. The guy I got it from didn't know anything about it. He just got it yesterday, and some gentleman out in the country asked him to come clear all the cars off his property. I guess there was a bunch, and this was there, so he just drug it home, put it on Marketplace last night, and I snagged it up today. Oh, that's good. He didn't even know. I asked him last night and then again this morning. He didn't even know if this thing had an engine. He said he hadn't looked. To be honest, I haven't looked. Well, you can't tell. The inner fender's covered up. Let's pop the hood and see what we're working with here. Can't tell how long this has been off the road, but it does have an inspection sticker. 2000. I guess that's 6 of 01. So 2001 was the last time it was on the road, or at least inspected. So that puts this as being off the road for 23 years. Unleaded fuel only. Okay, so it's a gasser. Oh boy. Got a hole in the floorboard. I didn't even look in here. Some spark plug wires. Dash is trashed. There's a handicap sticker or placard on the dash. It's interesting. The hood pop is just dangling there, so I'm gonna have to put this camera down. I'm gonna pop the hood and I'll come back. It's back there. Nothing? Probably nothing. All right, give me a second, okay? Okay. Look at this grill. This little brush guard. That thing looks clean. It matches the contour of the hood. You don't see that every day, probably. Okay, I popped it, but I have not opened it yet. I swear to God. Okay, there is an engine, so that's cool. There's also huge, semi-fresh, we'll just call it fecal matter. Sure. We got a battery. Ooh, is there a date on that? I need my proper. Okay, good stickers. Really good stickers. Check that out. These spark plug wires were completely chewed through. Wow. Is that what those are? Yeah, those are spark plug wires. So what does that tell us? Is that why it was parked? Certainly not. Does it have? Oh yeah, look. Look at all those lines. Dude, this thing was just chewed through. Luckily, this isn't a real electronically controlled, I should say, vehicle. Not a whole lot of vacuums. It looks like it's, well, there's a little bit. Vacuum lines don't seem to be chewed up. Well, yeah, they sure are. Okay, so we're gonna need vacuum hoses and spark plug wires. I'm afraid to open the breather. I don't know if I'm gonna do that today. That may be in the, when I get back to it here in a few days. Oh my God. What is that? Look at the size of that spider. God, I hate spiders. Okay, well, here's how she started. What we're gonna do is get her off the trailer. Probably gonna have to buy some some tires for it, just so I can roll it around easy. It's getting cold out, so I don't want to be wrenching on this thing outside. Gonna need to be able to push it into the shop. We're gonna clean out the engine bay, put a fresh battery on it, and we're gonna turn, wait, do I have keys? Where would the keys be? Dang it. No keys. Shocker. Okay. So we're gonna hotwire it. So I'll be back when we get to that. Emo, Alco, Elmo?
Something like that.
Sounds like a
Here's
2000.
the color number 0075.
All right, it is 4 months later, and Henry's finally ready to fire this thing up. So it took us an hour to get it off the trailer, where it's been since Thanksgiving. And nothing's changed. Still got the same fat rat turds on the air cleaner. So we're going to just, I guess, I don't know, use the air and blow it out. Probably need a mask on.
Yes.
Get that hantavirus. Then maybe pressure wash it. We'll see what we're working with. Be back in a minute. This stuff is thick. Like a wasp nest on here. Damn, things are nastier in Texas. That's for sure. I can't say that. Where's the dipstick? We don't know if the engine is locked up. There's a vacuum hose. Let's see. Okay. Guess the critter. Large one. See what's in the air box. I think she's clean. Come on. Yeah. All right. Rodent piss has bonded the wing nut to the stud. Holy smokes. I'm gonna put some PB on that. You broke it?
Broke it.
What are we gonna do? After 45 minutes of searching, we found the dipstick, oddly positioned in the engine compartment. Okay, it won't focus. It's overfilled, very dark. There's oil in it. Doesn't appear to be any water, so that's a good sign. We still don't know if the engine is seized or not. We'll find that out here in a second, maybe. Not a good sign. We busted the breather hose off, and listen. There's signs of animal life. See if we can look in here and see. It'll be a good jump scare moment. Big old rat sitting right there. Hey, out, jerk. That's a little nasty under the air cleaner. This actually is not part of the carburetor. Half pound of dirt, mud.
Another one.
This is not part of the carburetor. This is a fun game.
Get the rest.
There's more?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, it's a big chunk more. Oh, wow. Impregnated with some oil. So this has been here for a long time. Okay. Think the carburetor works?
Don't look. It looks pretty dirty in there, but it's cleaner than I thought it would be.
Okay. Well, so we're gonna keep cleaning. Oh my God, it stinks. So, show's empty. Let's check if we. Oh, there's bright green antifreeze in there.
Good. Crushed them.
Presto. Maybe. Ouch. I guess this doesn't use a reservoir. There's no hoses or nothing. So we noticed some wires that were chewed through leading back to the engine bay. They were chewed through in multiple places. There's 4 wires coming back here over the transmission. 2 of them go to what looks like, I don't know, maybe a neutral safety switch. But then there's 2 that look like to be green or yellow that were also chewed off. And I can't for the life of me figure out where they went. The exhaust pipe is completely smashed. Well, not completely. That boot going into the transmission has been eaten. Our oil pan is in really rough shape.
Yeah, oil pan is in pretty bad shape.
It's amazing it held oil. I could tell this thing was sitting pretty low to the ground for a long time. Some holes in the floorboards. Henry calls it air conditioning. So yeah, we have to fix some wires before anything happens, I think. Alright, so we got some parts, plug wires, rotor, cap, new ignition switch, I don't know, brake parts, waiting on shoes, but we got lines, shoes, we got the kit, spring kit, valve cover gasket. So today, as we're waiting on brake shoes, we're going to clean this up a little bit. Work on the distributor, spark plugs, wires, and that valve cover off, get that cleaned up. Maybe we'll try to fire it up today. This might be the nastiest dash I've ever seen.
Alright, we made a penny. No, it's not, but yeah.
Looks like a landscape in a sci-fi movie. Windshield, not happy either. All right, so this rig didn't come with keys. So we pulled out the old one and bought this new $90 job to replace it. Pretty easy. There's just this little bezel ring thing holding it on. So quick connect, didn't even have to take any of the dash pieces apart. So we're gonna plug this in and we're gonna drive it to the gas station. No, we're not. All right, new key in. Not the easiest ignition swap you can imagine. Now, battery. All right, good news. She's not locked up. There's no clutch on this rad fan, so we're turning the crank pulley. Making some weird noises, but she's not locked up. That's good. All right, so here's what we were working with. It's really not awful. There's some buildup on the contacts. It would probably be okay with just new wires, but we went ahead and this was cheap enough for a new one. So we'll go ahead and slap this on. Once we get the valve cover back on, we'll try to figure out where wires go. All right, so we deleted on the smog pump, air cleaner, all that crap. Give us a little more room to work. And I don't think we need it. Pulled the valve cover off because we obviously had a pretty bad valve cover leak, it looks like. Also because the oil plug was broken, and I want to make sure there's no rubber fragments here in the valve train. Everything looks pretty good. I mean, it's old, but you know, not a lot of buildup. Just probably had some old oil on it. Look at that shine off that timing chain. And I'll make sure none of that oil filler plug is in here anywhere, and then we'll clean off the surfaces and put the new gasket on once we clean and paint the valve cover. Henry got the valve cover looking brand new. All that gunk off of there. So now we're gonna paint it, even though it matches the truck better. Rusty and missing paint, but now we're gonna paint it. All right, rear end is seized, so we're gonna bust the wheels off, make sure the drums aren't stuck. I'm sure they are. And see how bad we gotta rebuild these suckers. Well, drum number one is, she's in rough shape. We were rusted to the drum pretty good. You could see where they were not letting go. So we may need some new drums, or we'll just sand these down, but wheel cylinder is extremely crusty. And it turns out the axle does spin. So we know it was a brake problem. That's good news. Okay. Remember how to do brakes, Hen?
Sort of. I do remember those right there.
Okay, good. One side rebuilt.
It's not spraying, or there's like.
Oh, don't spray that in your face.
I wasn't trying.
Shoes for this side.
Did we take all these springs off before we do this?
Henry's pretty much got this one broken down already. What'd you say, Henny?
Take all the springs off and just keep.
Did you get that brake line?
Yeah, it's loose or it's off.
One obvious problem we noticed was we had no fluid in our master cylinder, just gunk. I've always heard brake fluid doesn't dissipate or evaporate. Maybe that was just dirt that was in there. I don't know. So we pulled it off to check the seal and the piston, and it's crunchy for sure. And we noticed when you push the brake pedal, you could feel a stop. And it looks like there was a ridge worn in here where it just sat forever. So we may try to clean this up, or we may just replace it altogether. We'll see. Pretty sad shape. All right, we're waiting on paint to dry and some parts to come in. So we went ahead and busted the front wheels off. So we got some new brake hoses. Calipers look okay. Rotors will look good after a few dozen miles, I think. So we're gonna bust these brake lines off, replace these, and probably jump to the back and do that one too, since we got it. All right, old brake line off, new brake line on. I even put all the hardware back on like I was supposed to. Henry said easy peasy Japanesey. No, you can't say that. Henry, God, dog. We'll worry about ball joints and shocks later, bearings later. This should at least bleed and let us stop. Plus, this is a custom. It's a sealed unit, you see? So those are lifetime. So after we removed the smog stuff, we had some holes in the block. Couldn't find nuts. So we're gonna cut these off, and Flash is gonna weld these shut. So we put these back in the motor.
What am I doing?
You're gonna weld these shut.
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. All right, Henry got the valve cover installed, new distributor cap, rotor, wires. Looks way better. You may be wondering why we painted the valve cover on an old crusty turd. We don't know if it runs. I was wondering the same thing. Well, it looks way cooler. So, waiting on tires. Gonna have to fix our mouse deleted wiring, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do with this carb. But for now, that's about all we can get done today. Oh, and a master cylinder. Yeah, we need to do that. Henry talked me into putting power on this thing while we got all these half-eaten wires. Be ready to pop that off because it's gonna start a fire. Henry said it's an AGM, so we can just tilt it on its side. Nothing smoking? Let's pull that glove off. Oh, she sweated. Just like my hands are doing. That was gross. A little water in the carb won't hurt anything. It'll clean the valves and such. So as they say online. Okay, well, let's see if we got any power to the accessories. This is the first battery test. Hen, be up there looking for smoke. Oh, we got nothing. Okay, we don't think we had power hooked up going to somewhere. Notice our power wires. Oh, okay, it's not eating, that's just the sheathing. So here's where the fire is going to be. This is what do they call it, the smoke test?
Smoke test.
Oh, God. That's the worst smoke test ever. Let me see if we got anything on the key now.
All right.
Oh, I got a blinker. We'll see if it'll turn over. It turns over.
Oh my God!
Henry's pumped. I'm pumped. You want to get a little starting fluid? We only had a tiny bit of gas, so hey, hold that clutch in too. We're gonna see if it starts. Just he's thinking about it. Hang on a sec. I don't think we have any fluid in the bowl anyhow, but pump the gas pedal and make sure it link. Okay.
It wants to.
All right, stop. We're getting a weird knocking sound up here. All right, we got our distributor wire fixed. We're gonna try it again today. Oh, I gotta put your battery cable on. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. Oh! She's got some life. Okay. She runs. And she sounds pretty good.
For the way it's been,
Yes.
damn good.
Okay. So we also had our firing order wrong. So that might have been part of the problem yesterday. But I assume this wire from the coil to the distributor probably matters. So we cobbled that. She fired right up. You barely had to do anything.
Barely gave it any gas.
Yes. All right, so we're gonna try to suck out the remaining fuel that's in here with our little boat tank jobber. And we know it's nasty and dirty, but we don't know how dirty the tank is. So we're just gonna suck it out and dilute it with some fresh fuel and rerun the fuel lines. So we'll see what happens. Pump's running, get nothing in the filter. So our pickup's probably rusted to hell. I don't know if there's a sock on the end of that or not, but the pickup tube is not like in the sender assembly. That's just for the fuel level, so I don't even know. I may have to drop this daggum gas tank. All right, new master cylinder on. Henry's about to start booster bleeding. Yeah, just nice, slow, steady pumps until all the air's out. All right, so we got the brakes half-ass bled. I didn't show it because the only thing worse than bleeding brakes is watching somebody bleed brakes. The fronts actually bled pretty good. The bleeder screws actually didn't work. I thought we were gonna have to replace the calipers, but I was actually able to bleed it off of the banjo bolt, which I don't know if that's an acceptable way to do it, but it worked. So the fronts are working good. My passenger rear bled, but now the damn drum won't turn, so we're gonna be locked up again. That's fun. Driver's side, bled, but when the brakes applied, it still spins. So the rear's jacked up. We'll see. We only really need fronts. We may just plug off the backs entirely if it becomes an issue. Hopefully this thing will still drive with that rear passenger side sticking. This thing's got 80 horsepower though. I think we can power through some brake shoe. So next thing we're gonna do, because we weren't able to draw from the tank and it looks like we're gonna have to drop it, which I'm not thrilled about, before we start plumbing in the new fuel filter, fuel pump, new fuel lines, we're gonna try to feed it off the boat tank just enough to get it to run. We're gonna try to get it in the shop. That way we have, I don't know, less wind and sun, I guess. So I think we're ready to put the wheels back on. I was able to get some brand new, used 14-inch tires. They're in terrible shape. But they were 45 bucks each, mounted. So we're gonna throw them on. Man, sitting back on all four crappy tires, but tires nonetheless. We made sure to put the real bad ones up front. We'll see how it goes. So we did that so we can get it rolling. The next step, like I said, we're gonna try to get it in the shop so we can drop that fuel. We're gonna try to get it in the shop so we can drop the fuel tank. I just finished soldering the wires from the distributor to the coil. Obviously, the way we had it before was pretty rinky-dink. Now it's only Mickey Mouse. There's levels to this stuff, guys. So now, next step, we're going to start working on the fuel lines to the carburetor so we can hook up the boat tank, emergency tank, whatever you guys call your fuel pump strapped to your gas tanks. I don't even know what I call it. So we're going to do that. The idea being we can run it off that tank just enough to get this thing to idle, hopefully, which we know it idles off a brake clean. So it should idle off a tank. We'll test for leaks. And then we should be able to finally start this and have it drive under its own power. So I'm gonna work on the fuel tank real quick and we'll be right back. All right, this may be a little optimistic. I'm putting you on the tripod. I have not put power to the fuel pump, but we do have the ascending or the inlet and the return line hooked up, sort of. Well, they'll probably leak. And I don't even know if the carburetor leaks when it gets fuel. Don't know if the float or needle are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I'm gonna put power to the carb.
Hi, you are currently being recorded.
And then I'm gonna try to fire it up and then hopefully back this sucker up a little bit and then get this little turd into the shop. I don't have the microphone hooked up, just bear with me. I know it's windy.
Hi, you are currently being recorded.
Hell yeah, battery. Damn thing. Deader than a doorknob. Come on, baby. Doesn't sound like the carb is happy. I don't even know where you smack on these goofy bastards. Electricity and gas. Beautiful.
Hi, you are currently being recorded.
Hell yeah, brother.
You are currently being recorded.
Good news. Obviously the motor works. The carb, I knew it was junk, but I wanted to make sure, one, that the transmission shifted and went into reverse and at least first, which it obviously does, so that's good. No brakes. I had no brakes whatsoever. So we're gonna have to revisit that. Luckily, this thing barely had enough oomph to pull itself up into the shop, but that's good news. So now that gives me confidence to keep spending money on this old rusty turd. Probably gonna invest in the Weber carb. That's kind of the go-to for these old Japanese 4-cylinder engines. They're not cheap, but if that's all it needs to fire off and go, it's probably worth the $400 more I'm gonna have to sink into this thing. Then I'm gonna get it up on jack stands. We're gonna drop the tank, figure out why we're not pulling from the tank. Then we'll plumb in the fuel pump, the fuel filter, the new lines, And then we just got to figure out why the brakes don't work after we just did all the brakes. But it's promising. It's promising. So started the tank removal, and you know, there's 600 lines up here. I'm going to get them loose once I drop this down. The retaining bolts on the back of the tank are not hard to get to. There's 3 in the back, but there are 2 in the front that I physically cannot reach because the frame is in the way. It's like they mounted this tank before they put the bed on, and the only way you can reach it is from the top side. So I decided, well, how about I blow some air into the tank? Maybe I can knock whatever crud's off the pickup. I cannot get any air to pass into the tank. So I doubt there's some sort of internal check. I suppose it's possible. Probably more possible that it's just varnished into a solid plug. So I'm going to think about that a little bit. I decided to pop off the filler neck because it's pretty close to the... I thought maybe if I could see in here, I would be able to visually tell what's going on the pickup, but it's a little dark. I'm going to try to turn the camera or the light on the camera and let's see if we can look in there because I cannot see it. Can't get my big old dome close enough. So let's try to use the camera here. Okay, let's see what we got. I've seen glory hole cleaner than that. Good night. Well, we can see the other side of the tank, or the inside of the opposite side. It doesn't look rusty, but it's definitely nasty. And we cannot see the pickup tube, unfortunately. So it doesn't leave us with a ton of options. I mean, I could run an external fuel cell, which is not what I want to do, but it is possible, or is an option. In fact, there's probably room in here where I could rig up a fairly safe tank, and that may just be what we have to do. I'm going to explore a couple other options before we go to that length of desperation, but I don't know. She doesn't want to come out. She's obviously plugged up, clearly rusty. I don't think she's going to do us any favors. So we'll take some measurements, I guess. We'll see if we can find an external fuel cell. So the only other option I see, if we don't go with an external fuel cell, I'm calling it a fuel cell, it'll be a gas can. If we don't go with the gas can, it's more than likely going to be cutting the frame just to get access to the bottom side of those bolts, and then we don't know what's on the inside of this, and it doesn't appear that this sender is serviceable. Although I probably should chip some of that stuff out. I wonder if maybe that'll come out. I'm gonna bang on that for a minute. So we decided that we're gonna use our boat tank, now that we've got the filler neck off, to suck out whatever's in there so we can assess it. And I stuck my tip in and came back with what looks to be tar. It won't focus, for God's sake. Oh. It's thick and viscous. And that dirt was also, well, that might have came off the filler neck tube, that rust. Anyhow, safe to say, I don't think we're going to use that tank. I don't even see a need to suck that out because I don't want to send that through my fuel pump. So, I've never seen such nasty anything in the bottom of a gas tank. I don't even know how that happens. Gross. Henry found a stick and stuck it in there. Yeah, it's like the viscosity of honey, but black is, it's dark.
It's dark.
Huh? Yeah.
That's just nasty.
Definitely not using this tank.
It's about an inch thick, Justin.
Yeah. No wonder that pickup tube isn't picking up.
Yeah, it couldn't.
I don't even think Shahan could suck that up a tube. Well, after finding the dyno sludge in the tank, we decided we might as well try to drop this tank. I told you yesterday we couldn't access the nuts from the bottom side, but somehow with this 4-foot extension, we were able to just barely hit the tops of the bolts. And the nuts were so rusted, we didn't need to put a wrench on it. So those little bastards came right out. We might actually be able to drop this tank. This was the extension setup. With the wobbles in just the right places to bend around the way this bulkhead was kind of shoved inward because the nuts were way on this side. So we got lucky today. Well, the tank came out actually pretty easy after we put the Ron Jeremy extension on it. Have you ever seen a tank with so many daggum hoses and lines? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I can't count that high. We did notice we had a hole in the tank. Henry, did you see anything in there?
Gone. Black.
Oh, you know what? We got a flashlight.
Yeah.
We got the flashlight in there. You can see it's just that thick black tar. No good. Lots of turds. This tank was, I'm gonna say this tank's no good. What are we gonna do with this thing?
Light it up, baby.
Or bury it? Get somewhere we can bury this?
Oh, we can take this off.
Nah, it ain't doing nothing. We could see if it'll light on fire.
We save all these little.
There you go. Now you're talking. Got the fuel sender out. Fuel level. It wasn't in the gunk somehow, but it was in the rust. Henry said he can make this work.
Get the grinder on it.
Yep, that's safe to say that's trash. That whole deal is trash. All right, I don't remember where we left off. This is one of those park it and come back to it type of projects. There's just been a lot going on. Anyway, I think the last time we updated, we had just gotten the truck into the shop. It didn't run very well. It popped. It backfired, up through the carb. It barely brought itself in here. Not to mention the brakes didn't work. I was really on the fence about buying a new 15-gallon fuel cell off Amazon, replacing the old one we pulled out that had, 2 inches of thick, nasty tar in it and big rusty holes in it and all that smorgasbord of plumbing for what I'm assuming is some sort of evap canister. Anyway, so we were going to do a fuel cell and a Weber carb and a new header for that old crusty boy, and there's other reasons. But I decided before I spend a mountain more money on this, I really need to see it run and idle better first. Because one of the reasons this carb may not be working right is because there's vacuum hoses and connections everywhere that aren't even going to anything. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to temporarily install a gas can in the toolbox. I'm going to final all the fuel lines, make sure all they got good fuel clamps, or hose clamps, whatever. And then I'm going to take the rest of this afternoon to make sure that all my vacuum hoses are completely replaced, working properly, not working, just, connected properly. And then we're going to do the old Italian tune-up on it, and we're going to see just how bad the carb is. If after we fix vacuum leaks, the carb still sucks, it's low mileage, though, so it might not. Then we'll replace it. But for now, here's what we're doing first. We're going to gut this stuff. I think this is going to be the first section of the truck, other than part of the engine, that we try to doll up a little bit. So we're going to have to pull out this piece of plywood. We're going to pull out that expansion tank. We're going to have to weld in a little carrier, maybe weld in some strap mounts to keep the gas can still. Then we're going to replumb our lines. But before we do that, metal work, clean, and then maybe paint. I don't know, that looks pretty cool. But maybe we'll paint on the inside of there. Little sea purling action. Yeah, that'll work. Snotted her in. Good enough. All right, so we got supply line routed into the box. We used some rubber grommets. We actually did this halfway serious. On the gas can, we have a piece of plastic. Well, it's an old oil jug, with the right size diameters for the supply and return. So now this guy is set right up there. And obviously this is going to fish in between there. The supply will go in its hole. The return will go in its hole. All I have left to do now is cut the hoses to length and to fab up some sort of retention system. Don't know if I'm going to do a eyelet or a D-ring or just put a piece of wood in there so it doesn't slide. Ooh, that would work. All right, so the tank is pretty much done now. You're probably thinking, wow, you went the easy way and really took a shortcut, which is true, but I also have the ability to quickly swap out the fuel pump if it's not acting right. Keep a close eye on the fuel filter because this is not the most sealed tank. Obviously, you know, it's pretty tight fitting, but it probably will get some dirt and crud in there. But this all worked out pretty good. You can see we have a stowable fuel tank, so that way if we ever need to quick detach the fuel system, which is, we've got this on board, and we can go right back to you know, fueling lawnmowers and tractors and such if we need to. So that's pretty much ready to go. I haven't figured out the tie down system yet, but I want to run it first, and I just finished getting the rest of the fuel lines and vacuum lines either capped or rerouted. Now this thing had a ton of open vacuum ports. Well, and this mess of lines. So we kept the line that connects the carburetor to the vac advance on the distributor, which tees off and goes back to our little vacuum canister. And I kept the big one. I don't know what that does. So I think we've got it all capped, and we should be able to run off the tank and hopefully not spit, sputter, backfire, and all that stuff. So I'm going to clean up a little bit, and then we're going to get her fired up. Dang near got ahead of myself. Forgot when we ran it last time, let it idle for 15 minutes. Didn't feel like we were getting circulation through the cooling system. So while we're here, we're going to go ahead and pop off that thermostat. I got a new one we're going to throw in there. And then we're going to try to fire it up. Well, we gave the old thermostat the torch test. Damn thing wasn't even bad. I guess I didn't run it long enough. Wouldn't really be a big deal. Those parts are cheap, except for the fact that I guess I went a little hard on the thermostat bolts because I cracked it. So now I need a thermostat housing. I guess we won't be running this today. The auto parts stores don't seem to keep these parts on the shelf. It'll be another week. Waiting on Rock Auto. Alright, I decided what the hell. I might spill a little coolant. But you can see here, we've got fuel pump working. That looks a little strange, but it's clearly sending fuel. Sitting here idling. The battery, the 20-year-old battery is dead, so we put this monster in here. We're leaking some coolant. That's okay. We're also just sitting here idling. Maybe a little high idle. I haven't messed with any of the screws yet. I really just want to get it to a point to where I can drive it to the service bay for an oil change. I think we're about there. I got to lengthen this ground cable. It wouldn't reach, so that's what the jumper cable is for. But yeah, this thing does what it's supposed to do. In neutral, that wheel spins. Not sure what that's about. Let's turn it off. Let's turn it back on. Yeah. We're going places, guys. We are going places. I just realized it doesn't look like we have a speedo needle. Or it's hidden. Huh. I don't think we need to worry about speed in this old rig. Look what Henry talked me into doing. Yep. Guess we're going headers. Why not? It's all his idea. This came off surprisingly easily. None of those head bolts, or nuts I should say, were seized. Just popped right off. All right. Got some go fast parts. Header, air filter. I know this is cheesy. They don't make a whole lot of aftermarket air filter options for these little carbs. And this guy. This means we're about there. Now, one unfortunate thing about these headers is the flange is upside down. Yeah, I guess that's a known thing. These were cheap on eBay, but we're gonna have to cut the header apart, cut the flange off, flip it over, and re-weld it. So, yeah, looking forward to that. We'll get out the angle grinder and start cutting, I guess. All right, didn't show a lot of the header installation because it was a nightmare. But it's on, sort of. Super tight. We're touching the bell housing. That'll probably rattle us to death. We're pretty close to the clutch linkage. I'm pretty sure we're gonna have 100 exhaust leaks from where we tried to weld that flange back on the right way. But it's on. It's gonna be pretty tough getting the exhaust piping through where it comes in. There's a cross member directly behind the collector. So, I don't know, maybe we'll just dump it right there.
That'd be a good place.
Fill the cab full of carbon monoxide. Well, the windows will be down. So, we'll see. All right, next steps. We got to fix the battery cables. We're going to put the air filter on we got and our valve cover breather. And then we're going to be able to start it and hear this thing in all its exhaust leaking glory. So that'll be fun. All right, well, we pretty much got her wrapped up now. Got the filters on, got the battery installed with some new cables and a hold down. Put the new thermostat on, and I broke this one too. See that crack? Yeah, so I barely even turned on that thing. Yeah, and she sucks. But we're gonna go ahead and start it up anyway. I wanna see what it sounds like with his header on here. Henry, you ready?
I'm ready. I want to hear it too.
All right, battery should be charged. This thing should just fire right up. Let's see, what do y'all think? Maybe a couple squirts? Try that again. Old service rig needs some mirrors. So we're taking some off the Cobra here. And that should fit wellish enough. And they match. Oh yeah, look, those fit good. Are they gonna hang in there, Hen?
Yes, they are. Definitely.
Until we hit the first tree. And it looks like it just clears the bedside. Yeah, I think those will work good. Looks like they're factory. All right, we got the seat cover installed. I struggled to find one that was gonna fit a mini truck bench. And I read countless Amazon product reviews until I found one where everyone bitched about the cover being too small, even though it says it's for a full size. So that told me that's the one I needed, and it fits like a glove. I'll leave the link to this one if anybody else has a mini truck bench they're trying to cover. All right, Hen, you want to shut the hood? It hasn't shut since we started this project. This marks, hopefully, a proper maiden voyage. Oh yeah. You notice we're getting the tires cleaned up. There's one last step before we roll this out of the shop. And that is our beautiful center caps, hubcaps, wheel covers. I don't know what you call them. Dog dishes. All right, so the goal here now, we haven't finished the exhaust, the brakes suck. We're just gonna see if we can back it out, do a donut in the field, and then pull it back in. You ready, Hen?
Ready.
Get in, you coming? If I broke down, you need help pushing this thing back.
I'm gonna die.
Dang it. So don't know if the trans fluid level has anything to do with our stall out lack of wheel spin, but we checked the fluid level. It was really low and that fluid was nasty. So we drained it, and for most people putting that fluid back in there is probably a pain, but for us, we have this handy transmission fill hole installed by the factory, and so we're able to take this Flexi Boy, fill it right up. So nice factory option. So we're working on exhaust here, and you can see the collector on the header aims directly at this torsion bar bracket and cross member. There's absolutely no way to go over the cross member or straight, so we're gonna have to come up with something that angles it over. The original exhaust rode right here in this little depression of the cross member and then goes back this way. So we're gonna have to take our collector flange and then maybe 45 it over and 45 it back, all in this tiny amount of space. So So there's no way this is gonna go wrong. All right, we're using our CAD. This is roughly what we're looking at. The cross member is about 5 inches from our collector. And then we've got to be offset another 5 inches over to tie into or to make the hole in the next cross member. So we've got a 45 and 45 and 5 inches. And all we got are these big ass pipes. How's that gonna work? It's not. So we're gonna have to trim this down.
Damn, quite a bit.
Big time. Then our adapter, yeah, we're going 2 to 2.5 here. How is this gonna work? Well, we'll figure something out. So this is basically what we came up with. It's obviously not perfect, but you can see it's close-ish. I think what we'll start with is we'll get this stainless collector tacked to our, I like how it goes from 2.5 to 2 to 2.5. Oh well, what are you gonna do? To our mild steel adapter, to our 45, to our 45. I think I'll just tack this stuff on, see if it's gonna close halfway fit. We may have to smash it in a couple places. But if we can get past, attached to the collector and past the cross member, we're gonna be in pretty good shape. So I'm gonna start tacking this stuff up, and I'll come back after we have a half-assed plan of how this is actually going to work. But we're close, probably. All right, she's not too pretty. I've never done exhaust before, so just squint. But we got the shape we need. We're a little tight on that torsion bar adjuster, but it's just gonna have to be what it is. So we're gonna put this back up. I think that we should be able to align through the rear or the mid cross member just fine. We'll have to figure out our hanger. We're gonna go to knockoff Amazon Flowmaster. Then I'm gonna see if this old tip that my friend Chris told me I can have will go on. We might try to shoot it out here right in front of the rear tire. It'll be close. I'm just working with what I got here. But yeah, we're gonna start kind of mocking things up now. All right, I'm gonna show you what we're working with here. So we kick down from the collector, kind of touching the adjuster, and we shot through this hole back here. So now we'll put a hanger right here where my hand is. We'll grab this factory mount, and we'll be able to put the muffler on and try to kick her out. Bingo bongo. I mean, it's not a hack job. Yeah, it is. All right, the exhaust is officially almost kind of done. I'm missing a couple exhaust clamps to actually clamp the muffler on. So it may be a little louder than it will be after I get that buttoned up, but it's piped into a muffler, so we'll see how it sounds. A couple pumps and a drawback. Still sounds like it's gonna be loud as hell.
Yep.
Cam. Okay, so we filled the transmission. That was pretty low. Don't know if that was the problem. We disconnected the rear brake line and put a plug in the proportioning valve, distribution block, whatever that thing's called. So we know that the wheels can't lock up, and we know that we've got juice in the trans. We've got a little bit of brake in the front. So we're gonna go for a test drive again, take 2. Henry, you coming?
I'm looking forward to this.
We don't have any cup holders in here.
What are you doing? Let's go, mate.
It's going! Attempt 2. Walk of shame number 2. It's the next weekend. Weekend number way too many. So we've done 2 test drives. We've determined that it's definitely not the brakes locking us up. Hey, a little breather guy blew off. I wonder if we're getting too much pressure in there. That's weird. Gonna have to look at that. Don't know. Thinking it's not the transmission or the clutch. We did top it off with fluid, and it shifts through the gears fine on jack stands. Has no problem turning the wheels. It's just under a load. I was hoping we didn't have to get into the carburetor, but it looks like we're going to. So I've got a rebuild kit coming. It'll be here tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm going to try to break this one down, get it all apart, forget where all the pieces go, and then do my best to remember tomorrow. If this isn't the problem, I'm just going to put this thing up for sale. I don't know. Maybe it's timing. We'll start here. We haven't touched it. I know that the accelerator pump is probably junk. Maybe that's why it's not running under a load. Not that there was much load on it, but that's what's next. This is coming off. Well, we got the carb all apart. It's been too long. And there's a really, really good chance that this never goes back together. This carburetor had a dadgum wiring harness. 3 sensors. Well, choke. I'm guessing that's temperature. I have no clue what that thing does. Anyway, I'm going to clean it. The rebuild kit will be here tomorrow. We'll put it together. I'm not getting my hopes up that that's going to work, but I'm trying. Basically, everybody with these LUVs says go with the Weber 3236, 3632. I don't even know. I have forced myself not to buy that updated carb because it's $400. This is supposed to be cheap. We're just trying to get this thing running. This is not supposed to be a daily driver. I don't want to spend $400 on a carb. So we're going to put this back together. We'll see how many parts we have left over. And then we'll go from there. All right, new carb kit came in. Walker 151001. I was about to buy this on Rock Auto, which is great for like just listing parts that are applicable to your vehicle. But their prices are high, shipping's expensive, and lead times. I never get anything less than 4 days. Plug this number into the old Amazon. Got it next day. I ordered this yesterday. $25. So that way, when this doesn't work and I've got to go ahead and get the Weber, you know, at least I didn't spend an arm and a leg and have to wait a whole nother week just to blow another weekend. I'm going to try to get this knocked out real quick, put it back together, get it on the truck. That way, if I got to order a new carb, I can order it and it'll come in before next weekend. So I'm going to get jamming on this. What a debacle that was. So over the course of a couple days when I had some free time, got it apart, put it back together, had some extra pieces left over, took it back apart, found where the pieces were supposed to go. Now we are back on. Don't look too closely there. Okay. Those carb nuts that hold the carburetor to the intake, boy, those are a bear to get your fingers to and get a wrench on. But we got them snugged up, made sure all the bolts were tight, and whoa, in and out. And we're back together. I went ahead and primed up the fuel system, got gas back in the bowl, and I saw I had a major fuel leak on my supply line, so I just got that repaired. And let's see what we're working with here. All right, come on, baby. All right, we're gonna see if that'll sit there and idle for a few minutes. See if that choke does choke things. And then we're gonna try to drive it for the third time. Okay, take 3. Rebuilt carb is on. Fuel leaks are fixed. We did a little test back and forth. It seems like it might actually run this time. Carburetor. Yes!
Damn, Justin, that sounded good too.
I don't know if it sounded good, but we made it around the barn.
Up and down.
We are officially attempting our first drive, not just around the yard here, but actually going to take it down the road. She's not 100%, but I think she's gonna make it. We've got a little brake. We're still just on the front brakes. I think the problem before, well, the obvious problem with the rear wheels not spinning was the carburetor, but I think it was the accelerator pump. We still have problems making a hill, and we've got some hills we're about to have to make to get out on the road. So this may be a disaster. I left my truck and truck keys back at the shop in case I got to call Henry for help. I've never shifted to second gear either, so that'll be interesting. This low ground clearance is going to make this awful road an experience. But the whole point behind this truck really is to have a vehicle at the land, at the shop there. We're going to test the brakes on this downhill. have a vehicle at the shop that we can tool around in, do maintenance on our equipment. I'm sure this is very shaky. I apologize. We'll smooth out here in a minute. You know, we've got innumerable cars, trucks, tractors, trailers, pieces of equipment at the land that we have to work on, and typically I do it out of my Ram, but I'd like to outfit this thing with all the basic tools, as well as I've got a generator and a compressor I'm going to throw in the back, probably mount a couple vices, maybe even one of those cranes, second gear. Oh yeah, the exhaust leak is not gone, but it is better. Speedo, there is no speedo needle. I'm guessing I'm doing about 15 miles an hour. And so yeah, that's basically what this truck is for. I don't intend to take this on any road ever. Well, maybe to the gas station. Alright, this is probably the steepest hill we're going to have to climb. Get the RPMs up a little bit. Seems okay. But there's still more work that needs to be done mechanically. Like, we fixed the basic stuff. I'm probably, even though this carburetor is working, I would like to probably put a Weber on it just for peace of mind and reliability. I didn't think that carb rebuild job that I did was going to work whatsoever. All right, blacktop. Shift's good. Third gear. Do I have third gear? Yeah. I want to put a Weber carburetor on it. I want to put some coolant, a coolant gauge, oil pressure gauge, and maybe a voltage gauge. And she's driving smooth. Just coasting. I feel like I smell coolant though. Smells hot. But she tracks down the road pretty good. Back into third gear, get up this hill. Maybe should have went to second gear to get up this hill. Come on, baby. I don't know if you can hear that clanking when I shift. That is my shifter linkage. Just love tapping my collector down there. I tried to clearance it, but I didn't do a great job. As you could hear, didn't want to go into reverse, but it did. All right, we've got a couple miles under our belts. I'm going to get it back in the shop and assess that coolant situation. We did put a new thermostat in it, all new rad hoses, but after letting it idle for a little while yesterday, I did see a little bit of coolant pulled under, that kind of collected on the cross member under the motor. I don't know, couldn't tell where it was coming from. Didn't look like the water pump, which is why I really would like to get some gauges in here. I don't know, it feels like it's getting hot, but it also could be because the floorboards are rusted through and I'm sitting right on top of the header pipe. Boy, she's running. 23 years in the field. But guys, this motor's got 75,000 miles on it. There's plenty of life left, and you can tell this thing wanted to live. It wanted to see the road again. Here we are. Getting some exhaust gas in here. I'm gonna have to open a window. Wait a minute. Is the heater on? The heater is on. Feels like it's getting hot. Why do I feel heat blowing on my feet and face? Oh, I don't know. The heater's on. But I guess that means the heater works. I don't know how. We didn't really fix any of the wiring. The rats just ravaged all the wiring. And the only one that we replaced was the little yellow wire between the coil and the distributor. We left everything else alone. I kind of was just leaving it, doing the bare minimum to see what it took to get it running. Now, I don't know what sort of adverse effects that's going to have on the rest of the system, but it's working. So how bad could it be? Takes the bumps pretty well. Downshift, baby. You got this. I think we're going to call this one a wrap for now. We have successfully revived this old Chevy LUV. I'm honestly pretty surprised with how much I enjoy this truck. I didn't expect to like it, and I'm going to refrain from making an I love it comment. But when trucks like this that have been sitting for so long just want to come back the way this one did, you can't help but feel some sort of connection to it. It was just waiting for us. Hope y'all enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Oh, I almost rolled off the driveway.
Justin, that turned out great. I mean, seriously, I didn't think. I don't know, the way it looked when you brought it in, I said, hell, that thing's going to take a year to get it to even turn over.
Yeah, what'd it take us? Well, we bought it 7 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
But really, total, I mean, how many days do you think we put into this thing? Like
Oh, maybe
6 days
6 to 8 days, yeah.
of just actual work?
Actual work, yeah.
That's not bad.
No, that's damn good for something that beat up. And not knowing exactly what the problem was, and it was the carburetor, 90% of it.
The carburetor. Damn carburetors.